Hello everybody, it is Christina. It's Scrapcraft and Stitchery, and thank you so much for joining me today. It's Sunday afternoon here. It's a beautiful day. I'm so excited. Hey, what am I doing today? So gonna work on right now making this idea book. So if you're interested, I will I'm gonna start doing this, and I'll be mass making, as you can see, envelopes and stuff, and I'll probably make videos for those kinds of things and put those out occasionally, and show you what I'm doing so that you can also come along. So if you want to make an idea book, this will be in the playlist and you can check it out anytime you want and see what I'm doing and see what this idea book becomes, because I think this is a great idea for making a junk journal that's kind of a junk journal for me, because it has, I don't know. So I have 10 of these, and I think I have 10 of these, and I was originally thinking I was going to do 2, and these are this paper that I have. I always like to include some sort of graph paper in mine. So because this is an idea book, I might kind of start to think too about what ideas there are for signatures and folios in the signatures. So here we have, these are kind of found paper that I've collected a lot of. So there's those, which are, these I tore out of like some old lab notebooks where I used to work. Somebody was throwing away, cleaning out their lab, that they'd had a lab for 30 years and they had a whole bunch of like lab notebooks, and I tore the back pages that weren't written on out of a bunch of them. So I have a limited stack of laboratory notebook pages, which is really cool. And again, these are scrapbook kind of papers or cardstock. These are double-sided. I have different uses for double-sided, and I like to use double-sided scrapbook papers as pages in my notebook. And then these are coffee dyed paper, of course. You can dye coffee dyed paper with, like, I think maybe this one was avocado dyed. It's kind of pink. Okay, so there's that, and some of them are very different. But I have a stash of those, so whatever's in my dyed papers pack, that's what I pulled out. What else? So I have a whole bunch of coffee filters, and I could take out some of these things, but I have a whole bunch of coffee filters because I use like square coffee filters, and I think that could be fun. So maybe I'll find some of those. Maybe I should start to take some notes here on what I need to go and find, and those are kind of a thing. I have a pour over Chemex coffee pot that I use to make coffee every day, so I have a coffee filter every single day. And so those make great pages. If I had a pen, which I don't, how big do we want this to be? I've been trying to also make my books a little bit smaller. Now, this is not a journal. This is my box of things that I have set aside to use already as journal pages. And what's in here? So this is like a pamphlet from, we went to the Parthenon, so it's just a travel brochure, and I think this would make a cool, this is in, this is from Nashville, Tennessee, not from Greece, but they have this from the World Fair that they had. So here you can see, we've already seen where I had used pieces. This is just a paper bag that's like a decorative paper bag, and I've saved pieces of it because it's interesting and fun to include some things like this maybe. This could be already a pocket, and that's kind of like a thing. And then these would be like some just partial pages, and I might add some of these to my book because it'll kind of go with the papers that I already have, but I tore these in half for another project, so these are kind of fun. Scrapbook papers, vellums. This is very pretty. It has like some butterflies on it, and this would be very pretty and tucked into a signature. It's just kind of like a decorative thing. I have these graph papers, which I actually buy. I mean, I buy graph papers and things like that when I find them to use, and I have some of this, and this is like an A6 size, I think. I'm not sure, really. I think it's an A6 size, and it just came as like, I mean, loose sheets of graph paper, and it's punched, which is really interesting, so I might grab some of those because I do have this box of things. This is the instruction manual for my brother's sewing machine, and this could be really cool. This is in Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish, unfortunately, but I could take this apart and add this to, and it's got graph things and all kinds of fun things depending on what kind of a journal you want to use. So I put that in here so that that can eventually get used. I should be making journals just all the time. What else? Oh gosh, oh golly. Okay, this is actually a journal that I started. This is kind of a cool notebook kind of a journal, and it's just made out of cardstock, and I think I guess I didn't. It's just really kind of a light notebook kind of a thing. But oh, I got this for Christmas last year. I got this paper pack, and I cut it all down, and I was gonna put together kind of a notebook, and all I have to do is bind this. And but these are really pretty fun pages too. Okay, well, that's a project. We should do that. And then this is, I mean, again, I think I got this off of Temu. It's just a different kind of a construction paper. This is stationery. This is handmade paper. This is, oh, I have these music paper that are like for music composition. This is where I've added a glassine bag. Okay, I should maybe go ahead and use this as a signature in my idea book, because this is where I have really come along and said, okay, this is where you can have all of these different things already in here, right? Paper bag, if you wanted to do at least a partial paper bag journal, maybe you don't want to do a complete paper bag journal. These are cool. These are scraps, but I have this other kind of a paper, which isn't really tissue paper. I think this is like a light calligraphy paper. But that could be fun to work with. These pages are not going to be like super, this is very light paper. But it has a cool texture on it. So I have a big sheet of this big sheet, off the screen big. But I've torn off these bits for something else. And then there's like, this is the coffee filter, and I've stamped on that. So I do have this box of things that is maybe not completely, but at least partially filled with things that would be cool to use. There's some note that's gotten onto here. So this is a coloring book page that would be fun and to just add, especially like these repeating pattern kind of things. Also, like if you don't like to cut up books, maybe you're okay cutting up a coloring book. I am not super into coloring. Sorry, I forgot where I was at, but I do think I like to use these as pages in my journal, and these will be a little bit smaller, so it kind of gives you a breakup of different pages. Some people, I mean, you see people who just use like tons and tons of different images, right? Anyway, so I threw this whole book in here. Apparently, I did color. I just can't really get into that. I don't have the patience for that. It's scary. But I'll sit and doodle like for hours and do the drawing. If I can just tear that out. If I get it started and I go slow, maybe. There you go. I have cats sleeping on my desk, and they're kind of all piled onto this cushion. And Grimm fits on there by himself really well. The little girl is kind of curled up on top of him, taking up half of it. And she is about half his size. This one did not want to tear out, or I was not being patient with it. Okay. I have coloring books too that I've just kind of disassembled and then never used. So, let's pull those things out. So I have this as a really resource for pages and starting journals as well. Of course, did I come back to this? No, I started a whole new list. I'm going to, I don't want some of these things. Some of these things I'm going to leave in here as a resource. I am going to add a few of these things. Do I want more of these coloring sheets? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. printy paper, and of course you could use this, like especially if I had, I think this is jelly print, and it's one that I'm not super fond of, but I could have jelly printed both sides of this and fold this and put it into my journal. However, because I've only done one side of this, I think is what I'm going to do is there's this idea that I've had that I've always really liked. So I'm just going to rip off a portion of the top and bottom of this. And I'm going to glue this as a border onto a page in my signature. And this is kind of a coffee dyed paper, but it's not like super interesting as a coffee dyed paper. Sorry, I have so many things going on here. And so I think I'm going to do that. So this makes for a really interesting kind of, like, I think that that looks really, really cool. And I like it a lot. And I'm going to put this down and I'm going to go and sew around the edges of these copy dyed papers. But because it's my idea book, I kind of like the idea of including something like this in here as well, to remind me that I think this is a really cool and interesting type of a page idea. To do with your like leftover jelly prints, things that like maybe aren't super interesting just as a sheet on their own, but I do think that this becomes very much more interesting as a border onto this page, especially if I'm going to go back and sew over the top of this. And I could line it up at the top, but I'm not going to, obviously. So that's one idea. Okay, I like that idea. What else can we do with some of these? Are the coffee filters that I was talking about. And because I was saying, so these are the coffee pot, that go with my pour over coffee pot, and is what I'm probably going to do. It's what I've done in the past, and what I was showing you before is I've just ripped this in half, but I think it's what I'm going to do for this particular journal. I am going to put some of these in here just because, I mean, I have a never-ending pile of these coming through all the time, and why waste them? A great source of, you know, coffee dyed paper. And I do rinse them out pretty good to get the coffee grinds out. I do save the coffee grinds to make coffee to coffee dyeing. I'm going to go ahead and sew around this as a two-piece before I sew it in, and I think that that'll make this a little bit thicker and make it so it's not quite as flimsy, so it'll function better as a page. But the other thing is, I mean, you could add a border around this too, which kind of, I like the way that looks. You've had enough? Did you get enough of the kitty? Yes, she can be a lot, I know. That's Nova Ember. She is so much. And I also think that that would be really cool, just like paired with a black and white image like this. So many options. Okay. I might use a piece of this with this. Okay. Okay. Let's think about this. Let's stop. Let's think. We have these as options as well. And remember, I said that I am not a big color. I might have to break these down because I do think this is going to be too tall to go in my book the way that it is. And this is like going to be upside down because I could. Does that look like it's upside down? I can go ahead and fold this up and make a pocket. Why not? Ready bake a pocket into here. Already into the signature, and that will be like a little page that is a pocket, but then that's going to be upside down when we put it in the book. Why did they make that directional? That's very annoying for me. Anyway, now we have issues everywhere. Okay, I could have done it the other way if I had thought about it. I could have done the acorns onto the green as the pocket instead of the... I wonder if this could be a really tall page in my book, or if this is, yeah, see, it's too tall by about an inch. Okay, so we are just going to use that. And I'm gonna put that on there, somewhere like that. I don't know. Depending on what I don't want to cover up, I guess. And I can either glue that like that, or I can glue this as a belly band. That is all going to be collage stuff. So if I want to do this as a belly band, I probably want to have it go to the edge. And I can glue this, and then I'm going to sew around. I wonder if like building an idea book like this would almost be better if you did it in sections, because the idea is to collect the ideas over time. And so I can make a signature today, but leave like room for additional signatures later, so I don't have to have every idea that I'm ever gonna have right now for this. And if you get really, this is exactly what we do, isn't it? Okay, well, this is an idea that we've had, so I'm going to go ahead and put this in my book. Ta-da! Okay. I'm going to call this a win for this book. This is my 2026 book of ideas. And if we are still doing this in 2027, we will have a brand new idea book. So I'm going to sew this. So I love this Tombow mono liquid glue. I'd buy them. They're $2 or $3, but one of them lasts me for a very long time, so I'm not too concerned about until it gets more expensive. I'm not gonna worry about it. I like that it comes in this very usable thing, and it sticks. I use this. I have the Scotch permanent glue stick. These are way too expensive. I bought a whole bunch of these in a pack that's a small pack, and they do last me a long time. I mean, but I also spend a lot of time editing videos and not actually gluing things. So that'll be a belly band for my idea book for 2026. Okay, we now have some idea of what we're doing here, right? Because I'm going to do an idea book for 2026, and this is it. You're watching this live as it happens. So now, see, I could have sewn this on, and I'm just going to glue this on. I'm going to glue this down here. Why? Because this has been on my desk, and I've been looking for something to do with it, and this is where all of my ideas come from anyway. I don't know why I'm trying to make a book like I plan things. Because I think it's fun, and it's a fun reason to make a journal. I like having a reason to make a journal. This is my reasoning for making this journal. Idea book. Lost the glue. Might need to clean up my desk. There's a lot of things out here that I just really don't need right now that would be really super easy to put away. But also there's something about that I just want to have them here. Okay. I think that's fun. This is good because I have a lot of lace and things. I actually just bought some more on an auction online. And I never use it, so I think putting this in my book early where I can be like, oh, I need a trim. That's a good idea too, just making a book of your trims. Maybe I'll put a page in here that's just like, oh, I have this, like a swatch of my trims that I have. Okay, there is that, and a lack of that, and that can go there, and I'm going to put these other pages in 2 signatures, just kind of at random. So I'm gonna fold these in half. I might make one of these into a little pocket like I was saying, but not this one, because again, this is an up and down, and this is definitely an up and down where all of these leaves are going top to bottom instead of randomly facing. So since these are directional, I'm just gonna leave this. And what about this one? Also has a pattern. Also not gonna be. So I am going to save this. I am gonna save this. So I'm gonna tear off the bottom of this so that these pages are 8.5 by 11. I think. Let me put some of that on there too. We're gonna make a book. I think I'm gonna do 5 signatures. And I'm only gonna do 5 or 6 pages, probably 6, since I've given myself an upper limit. I will definitely choose. I'm gonna do 5 signatures, and because I am trying to make my books smaller, and I'm gonna do 5 signatures with 6 pages each, which should mean I have plenty of stuff out already. It seems like that's the upside of this. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I love that. Okay. That looks good. So I am going to tear these down so that I'm going to tear off the top of this one, because then I have the deer here on the bottom. Because if I tear off the bottom, then I feel like, okay. And I'm just going to tear the bottom off of this. So I can put this into that. And I'm just going to do this. This is going to be a little bit smaller, but I'm going to eyeball this where I feel like I can use this scrap for something. I love this trees on the back here. So pretty. Okay, so that will be a page. And I said I was going to rip this off the top to make this deer and this deer be, can you even see that? There's a deer there. This is very busy on the screen, isn't it? Okay. So I'm going to, again, rip off somewhere where I feel like these scraps are, have some use or purpose for me. And also, I mean, I like the deer kind of up higher rather than like right in the center. I think that that will be a fairly decent composition. It's going to be fine. I think that's going to look really good with like some of these other pages. So now I have all of these scraps, and this one can go in the black and white images for my Defender Ember. Okay. And these ones I'm just going to put in here and see what happens with them. Okay. So I have that, and I'm going to throw in a couple of these. I am going to go sew around some, but not all, of these pages. I do think that like you can sew around the edge of your signatures, but it kind of then implies, at least for me, that like it's more difficult then to work with the border of the page if you want to add, and maybe that's just something I worry too much about. I have used this. That's kind of a cool cell wall picture. I'll probably pull some of these, and I've deconstructed this book, and now I have whole signatures that I can kind of pull from and use. Like this whole folio can be used in my journals, and so I might use this one because I like that it says contents. That's kind of cool. So I'm going to take these down. My sewing machine is set up downstairs, and so I'm just going to go sit and sew on a Sunday afternoon.
Managing the Dimpy.
So I have these, and I've shown you how I use these to make like a pocket in a signature. And so I'm gonna fold, I just fold this like into quarters. And part of the reason for that is these are just too big to fit. I mean, I'd have to cut off the top or the bottom, or the top and the bottom, to get them to fit and put them into the signature, obviously. So I folded them into quarters so they would fit. Which you could do that too, and I actually kind of like that with this paper. Because this is very, I don't know, very formal kind of paper. So maybe I'll put this here. I wonder if I could dye this. Right now, I'm wishing I had so this is just vintage photo. I have a whole bunch of these, and the thing is, I also have should put some paper down underneath this. I'm just curious. That's the thing. I'm trying to get rid of all these like book pages. I have hundreds and hundreds of book pages, right? So why not? What if we do this? And then spray it with some water to activate. Or I guess we could have done smooshing. Smooshing would have worked. Anyway. Or this works. Or, I mean, oh, I guess I don't have spray for this. However, I do have, but actually, you know what? Maybe we like it just like this. Right? Maybe. I'm not going to bother with that because I was thinking that I would glue this down onto another sheet of paper. Do we like it just like that? Yeah, I think we do. And then you could fill in a little bit more if you wanted some of this to just be less white, less starkly white in there. And that gets it kind of, the sponge gets it kind of down into the crevices a little bit more. But I think it looks really cool on this side where I didn't do that too. So, grungy lace. Yes, please. All right, let's see if this is going to work for us. I think it's okay. Sorry, it's a little shady in here. So I went downstairs and I'm back, and I did some sewing. So I sewed around these, but I have a problem because these are bigger, and I just realized that I'm doing, I think these are like a 9x6, and these are 8.5 by 5.5. So you see what I'm saying is that I'm just about an inch short, half an inch short, and I already sewed these because I could cut them down, and I guess I could still just cut off all the sewing essentially and use these, but I'm going to save these pages for something else so I can find, I have other book pages that will fit within these sizes, but I'm not super convinced I need to have book pages in here, and I do have the coloring book pages, which I think are probably something for an idea book, more like something I won't think of. So basically I think I'm going to figure out how to assemble these signatures, and I'll probably publish this as a video specifically addressing like getting your signatures together, and then I'll bind this in another video for binding. But so these are really cute. This is some seam binding. I got out my sewing notions and I did a decorative stitch, and sometimes the decorative stitching doesn't do that well on book page, and I think it's because it tears through the paper. So I just put, this is basically like putting a couple of thin layers of fabric on there, and I like that as particularly as an idea. I have a couple different colors, but I liked the green with the woodland theme here. I don't know how well this is going to match anything in my journal because I just have a lot of really neutral colors. This is a very bright, not neutral green, but hey, you know. But I like having that as an idea to remind myself to use my sewing notions, because I have a lot of, a whole box of things. And then this one I just did kind of a, I'm not sure what this is. I think it's like a basting stitch. Oh, it's like a hidden seam maybe? Although it can't be a hidden seam because you can definitely see it on both sides. So, yeah, there's that. I do think it's a hem stitch. For that could go with that. Anyway, so that's my plan for the rest of this video. Is I'm just gonna, this is one of those pages that was ripped, and this is the only one I sewed, but I folded this over and then just sewed across the top to hold that down. And I really like this. I love this paper and I love this. Okay, so I just really like that. This one, I really liked how this one came out. This is actually a dark blue that would go with the blue in here. So I kept switching out and I did different colors. So the blues, I had used like a navy blue thread for that. And then I just took my sewing things down to remind me that, like, you know, sometimes you might want to do this. Before I put these signatures together, I am probably gonna go in, and where some of these pages are kind of plain, I think I'm gonna do some stenciling, and I think that's just an easier thing to do right now. And also, you know, I did just see this idea that Carrie the Crafter was doing, and I don't think it's a recent video, but it was one where he was doing signature pages and just doing different stamps and things. So I might do that. I love how this came out. So I was playing around with the decorative stitches on my sewing machine because it does a lot of different sewn effects. And I was trying to get this pattern to come out, and I realized that I needed to put it to a really wide stitch because otherwise it gets stuck and it doesn't stitch well again on the paper. You have to be more careful. It's more delicate than fabric, and if it tears, then you can get holes in your paper, which is what happened here, and it's covered up by this doily actually, so that works out well because I thought I was going to have to cover that. But I did find that if I set it to a wide stitch that I got much better results, and I really love how this purple looks on this brown and goes with the purple in this paper. I really do love this, and so I'm glad that I kind of stuck with that because I was about to give up and be like, you know, this just isn't gonna work. So I'm really happy that I got to spend a little bit of time just working that out. And so that's, I mean, patience in crafting, and I always feel like my crafting time is kind of low because it's like really the only thing I want to do. So I'm going to trim this. So the other great thing is these are of course the coffee filters, which I showed you earlier, and I've left it folded in half, so this is like a double layer here, and sewn this. And I think that using this for a page like this is really gonna work well. This is almost like fabric now, and before I think I've used these with, like I said, just the one ply, and I don't think that that's it's okay. I mean, I don't hate it, but I think that this is better. It gives me a lot more durability, I don't know. And I think that also just sewing this around this kind of gives it that nice. And I love how these, it also was really nice, like the consistency of this doesn't rip as much, so it's got a little more, I think, flexibility than like some of these other papers, which can be kind of brittle. So let's put that over there for later because, as I've said, too big. So that, I think, keeping these folded over, at least if I'm going to use them as pages, these are good for using for lots of things. But so there's that, and I think I only did 2 of those. And then I have these, and I think that this is what I was saying, is that I'm going to probably, I saved these to play around with, and I didn't want to sew on all of these. And the reason why, I did do some of them, and I like this a lot. The only problem is once these edges are sewn, I feel like anything that happens on this has to happen within this area, and I think that that's just kind of a me problem, honestly. So I don't necessarily really like sewing blank pages like this, or sewing all of them. I like having some of them not sewn, because I really like it, but I also am kind of like, I don't know, I feel like I'm now boxed in, and I don't want to be. I had this out, and I'll show you what I did. So on this page, for ideas, case you were wondering. So what I did here was my concern is that I'm going to put this into a book and then sew into this. And this has already been sewn into another book, obviously, because it's a book page. And so there is some damage here just from when I deconstructed the book and where it's already been sewn in. So I was thinking it would be really nice to put a piece of fabric on here. And I did this when I was down at my machine, which is downstairs, and now I'm upstairs, and this is where all my glue is at. And I did want to go back up and glue these back down. And this is just another piece of like really fine cotton. It's a seam binding. It's really pretty. It's got this really lovely like almost lace pattern in the center. And and I like it because it is very light, and I like to use it for things like this. So I just sewed it down on the one side, and if I had glued it down, I probably would have sewn down both sides. However, I don't really like this. So just because it's not in the thing. So probably what I decided to do with the other ones was, and this is, like I was saying, just to kind of reinforce this center. So I'd probably glue these ones in is what I was thinking. But since I'm not going to use them, I don't think I'm going to do that today. This might also be interesting to play with, because it's what I'm thinking is if you had book pages that you wanted to add as a signature, you could probably take 2 pages that are separate pages, like these 2 pages that are separate, and then you could potentially, and you could do this, it doesn't have to be book pages, obviously. And so both of these to one side of this. And I guess you could do this with any kind of fabric. And then do the same thing on the other side with other papers and just sew them together, and then maybe sew a border around, and you could then put book pages or anything else in to a book with kind of like a binding like that. So that would be a thing you could do, and there's probably a lot of different ways you could assemble that rather than sewing one on each side. You could probably do other things. Also, that seems like a lot of work to kind of keep things aligned. So okay, I've shown you that. Okay. But that's a thing you could do, and not a thing that I'm going to do now. Oh, I forgot this. This has been sitting up here drying. So I'm going to cut this out around here and use this as a page. And that's going to be okay. It looks like it's a little bit wrinkled and wet. Anyway, which is going to be okay, because you know what? I am not going to keep all of that paper anyway. And that is just kind of a factor. I'm going to cut this out, and so that I have this ready to assemble into my okay, so I'm back. I've cut this out. Hopefully I remember when I edit this to silence that, because I turned on what I watch on YouTube, and you guys will all be guessing as to who, you'll probably know if you know her, who I'm listening to while I'm cutting my stuff out, but I've put her on silent so I can finish up here. Oh my gosh. Because I'm crafting while she's crafting. But I do like to watch her live, and I mean, I try to run as many videos as I can just to help people get watch hours, honestly. Because I know I appreciate it when people do that for me. So I have cut this out. I don't know what that little orange spot is. This is not perfect because it got a little wrinkly here. So I cut this out and I started cutting out into all of these little scallops, but then I stopped and just started cutting along the tops of them. And I don't think that it makes a great deal of difference. And the question now is do I want to ink this again? And I think that the answer is, you know what, I really do. Back to this. What did we decide? That it's best to just smush this on? Also, just because, I mean, it got something brown on it, which, I mean, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, is probably not orange. It is probably more like a vintage photo color, honestly. For heaven's sake.
Libertino girl.
I love you, sugar.
Love you.
So, I mean, for the record, here we see, this is, remember, we put, what was it? Matte medium over this and then put that on top, and it does change the effect that you see here. It just looks slightly different. It's okay. But just a thing to note that you're going to get a slightly different effect with just the paper that's not coated in matte medium versus what is coated in matte medium. And I mean, I like this better. Honestly, I think that that looks really cool. And if you put the matte medium on, it's gonna smear it. So, keep all that in mind for later. So we need to combine that with, what were we going to use it on? It would look good on like any of these, honestly. I love this color. Here it is. I had pulled this one out, so I didn't do any sewing on this one because, I mean, I left it upstairs somehow. Okay. So that looks like that. It's a little bit different, and that was, I mean, this pocket though, I just feel like this is so much sturdier with the 2 layers than this. So keep that in mind depending on what you want. I am gonna not do this one. I love this. I love it. It looks so good, and that looks equally good. And you could do something that was like black and white, or you know, a very dark like navy blue or something would look very good. Red, oh my gosh, yes. So do something darker underneath and it will definitely do you, and that I will leave like that. Okay, so that's one. I love this stencil. So I have my makeup brush. Well, I wasn't going to do this in speckled egg, but I am now. I was going to do this in vintage photo. But I do think this will be a nice kind of lighter blue color, and it shouldn't really interfere too much with like the background. So let's try that. Let's try this and see. Look at that. Doesn't that look good? Okay. Stencils. I'm just gonna go across this whole thing. And the thing with the stencils are you don't have to necessarily do like the whole entire stencil like I just did. You can just also do parts of that and see how that looks. So I'm gonna write down, a list of things as I'm going along, and I'll make that available to you, maybe on my Ko-fi shop, where I've just collected my list of things that, as a starting point, I might provide it as a Google Doc, I'm not really sure. I'll have to think about that, but yeah, I do think that, and then I'll put a list of also additions that might be easier to do that you might want to think about doing, like before you assemble. And this is, trust me, this is killing me because I'm like, oh, I got the signatures. I don't know. This is like one of the steps where I'm just like, sew it together and make a book. And it takes a great deal of patience for me to be doing this, and one of the ways I could probably fix this is to do this ahead of time and just coffee dye, and then coffee dye, and then I just go through and maybe once in a while, just do stencils, play with stencils on my things. And it's a great way to kind of get into my stencils and start using those. So, ooh, wow, look at that. That came all the way through the paper. I wasn't expecting for that to happen. I must have, had a lot of ink on there. Eek. So I guess the best thing to do here would be to put some more stencils on here. So for this one, maybe we just kind of want to put this in kind of more like random places instead of all over. Because yeah, like I was saying, this would be great to just sit down one day or have a box of these and every once in a while do this, because I don't really want to be, I don't know, I think it's more fun to work in the book than it is to work on separate pieces that I'm going to assemble into a specific book. I don't know. So if I just had a bunch of pieces that I could choose from, that would be the fun thing, would be to have the pieces to choose from and assemble them without being like, oh, I'm going to make this in order to make this book. So that's kind of like an interesting thing. I like that a lot. I like it a lot. I love that. That stencil is just really nice. I don't know exactly where this came from. but it is like very, I don't know. It's not like a rigid plastic, it's like a soft plastic. Compartmental making. That's what we're doing for December Ember. And I am going to be doing December Ember, I think. And this is kind of what I want, is to be making things like this. And I do think that this is kind of what they say by compartmental making, is to maybe make a stack of 100 sheets of decorated. So maybe I have like 30 sheets that are stenciled, and it gives me a chance to kind of play with my stencils. And maybe I have 30 sheets that are stamped, and maybe I have 30 sheets that are I don't know what else I can do, sewn around the edges, or I could take these and then sew them, and then take these and because these things start to become a lot, and then these things can also be used for lots of other things too. Sometimes I use my copy dyed sheets for other things. So that one we are going to call done. I'm gonna do another one of these. This one I'm gonna call done. I think that this sheet is interesting enough with like this that it doesn't need anything else. I think this one is very boring. That one I don't know yet. That one's very boring. These are copy dyed, but like some of these sheets just like really kind of need some help. I'm gonna say those are interesting enough. I'm gonna stencil, well, yeah, I guess I'll do either stenciling on this, or I'm gonna do some stamps on one. So I might do stamps, and maybe I'll do stamps and on one. What do I have in the way of stamps? I have some like background stamps, and I have some word stamps. And I don't want to use anything, like if I do use words, I want to use like script or something. I have this set out on my desk, but I think these are kind of small compared to what I want. So let's just stamp some of these things on here. And let's not use that again, because we've been there, done that. I'm going to use one of my favorite techniques, which hopefully you have seen me enough times to know that this is what I like to do. I'm going to spray my sheet with some water. Okay, great. So then when I stamp on here with like vintage photo or another wet medium, this will make it kind of run, my stamped image will run a little bit, and I think it just makes the coolest effect. And I don't think that we're not wet enough. Okay. Alright, let's get it wet. It just makes the stamp look a little more imperfect. There we go, now we're talking. And I mean, there's nothing really wrong with doing it that way either. It's just, I am kind of liking this faded look sometimes. And this is, of course, I think going to kind of bleed through onto the other side as well. It's actually not doing too bad. Okay. But the other thing, I want to mix this with some of my dictionary page. What does this say? I think it has a whole bunch of words like friendship, friendlier, relationship. Oh, wait. I think it's all just friendly. Okay. And I'm not really sure. I probably got this from somewhere because I really do not know where this came from. Okay. But let's just stamp that on there and get this kind of going in a busy way. See? Yeah, now that's what we're talking about, right? And it doesn't matter. I would normally kind of try to balance this and that, but like when this is in the book, you're not going to see, like you only have to balance on this side and that side because obviously you're not going to see the other side. Okay. This is still stamping. I got a lot of ink on there. And then I'm going to go back in. There are some smaller stamps in that set with the flowers, so I'm going to probably go back in and add some more of those too once I get some of these words in. I will go back in and fill in a few spaces with just this small flower, and then there's a leaf, and I think that will go well to just kind of fill in some of these spaces. The only problem is that we're kind of starting to dry out a little bit. And I think you should really kind of keep going until you're happy with it. I'm not super unhappy with this side. With this side, I feel like I need something else up here. And even though I already did stamp a big flower there, I'm gonna put a big flower there and see if I can kind of fill in this space right here that just really didn't kind of get as much. That is what I'm talking about. That makes me feel much better. Just that. Okay. We can go ahead and do that. We can do it. We have permission. Okay. All right. That is fantastic. I'm pretty happy with this, and I'm gonna leave maybe well enough alone. I don't know if I should stamp on the back of this or not. I'm not. I'm gonna call this one done, and I'm gonna set this up here and let this dry. And if I was gonna do a book that I wanted to be really consistent, I might go in and stamp all of these pages, or do something like that. But I think as far as an idea book goes, and just being able to look and be like, oh yeah, I remember when I did that, I really like that. I might leave some of these other pages for this, but kind of writing my own little guide, Christina's guide, to making a junk journal. Okay? And so this is one idea that we could use. And if you wanted to make it like consistent throughout, then of course you could. And also, I mean, I could choose colors to make these consistent. But this also is helping me work through my process. As I said, that I would rather have various choices and be able to go and pull choices out when I'm ready to do the book. Right now I'm ready to do the book and I'm going back and I'm doing all of these other things. Partially because I've already gotten a couple of ideas, and so I'm kind of fighting against this thing to like rush and be like, time to assemble the book. Okay. No, this is not the time to assemble the book. Right now is the time to think about what we would like when we're ready to assemble a book. What do we need to assemble a book? Okay. I'm gonna go put away all of my stamps that I have collected out here. I think those are the ideas that I have for this for right now. So these are the pages that I have assembled. So now I think I'm ready to put these together and see kind of where I'm at. I have, copy dyed papers, some of which I have decorated. And I have 2 of these, but there should be some of these in each, and there should be 2 of these in each. And by these, I mean, okay. So if I'm making 5 signatures, I'm going to make a pile of things that have, that should go in everyone, and then like this, I only have this one of this partial sheet. I'm going to count that as a coffee dyed. See, this is the one where I put that down, and then I just sewed over it with like some tape or with some stitching, and I could have gone in here too, but I decided to not. And also this would be good to like run all the way right up to the top. So these are only in some, because I only have 3 of those and I have 2 of those, so that'll work. And then I have 1 of those, and then I should have 2 of these for each one, and I should have 1 of these for each one. And this pocket, I don't know, these pockets I think are gonna go as part. So I am trying to let go of having things be like, oh, this has to be like this and this and this. Nothing's gonna be like each one will get 1 of these, either this or this. This, I don't know. This might be a thing that I put into a pile and say, oh look, this already doesn't really fit. It's not cut to the right size. So I'm gonna put this over with this. This is a good idea. I love this idea. I'm gonna put it in here because it just fits in with these things. And I will use this when I make a 9x6 book. Okay. Glad we've sorted that out. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 6, 8, 10. So each signature is going to get 2 of these, 1 of these, and then I don't know, I think it's probably 2 copy dyed. Probably. Did I put that? Yes. Okay. I think that's gonna be good because each signature is going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. Almost done. All right. Okay. So I have an idea book, and it has plenty of room for me to add ideas for the next year or so, but also has some ideas already baked in for a little bit of inspiration as far as choosing the pages and what kind of pages you might want to put in here. So I'm not going to go overboard because this is an idea thing, and if I can add it later, I am definitely going to add it later. But this also has, like, you know, sewn edges, and some of these things like didn't really work, and that's okay because it's just my idea book, and it's for me to have ideas and to remember, like, oh, well, that didn't work very well, but like, look, I did get it to work much better back here. So, and I can make myself a little note and put it in the book on how I got that to work once I have a book assembled. So that's basically what this book is going to look like. And I have signatures. I'm going to sew them together at another time and make a cover next time that I work on this. And then I'll work on showing you the things that I'm making, maybe not in this particular order, to go in here. I already have some things. Like this accordion pocket, which I've sewn, another one, and an envelope, and tags, and all of the things. So I will collect these and go through and show you how I made them and how I'm attaching them. Pocket. Great. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this. I can make this list available to you just for my ideas on things to add to signatures for folios and signatures. And I will very much look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.